to Drinking Bros, presented by GhostBed.com.
What is up? Welcome to Drinkin' Bros. I am your host, Rob Fox, joined as always by Dan Holloway. And as the title says, we are RIPing Bob Dole today.
Yeah, he was one of the last politicians that wasn't a complete piece of shit, I guess. Like, he was one of the last guys that was like, we disagree on things, but I'm not just going to call you a Nazi for that.
Right.
Which, was cool. Also a war hero, so.
Took a whole bunch of shrapnel in the back in Italy late in the war. Lost the use of his right arm. Right arm. And then, eventually became a senator from Kansas. Lost the 1996 presidential election to Bill Clinton. Also was Ford's running mate in, 76.
Yeah, I mean, Gerald Ford was a lot better at playing tailback than being president, so that was never going to work. But
he'd be proud of his boys this weekend.
Yeah. That's all said and done. That's probably Ross's least favorite president. It's funny the 96 election was 49.2% Clinton, 40.7% Bob Dole, and 8.4% Ross Perot, which means, there's no guarantee that Dole would have gotten all of the Perot votes.
Right.
But after NAFTA, there's a good chance he would have, because that wasn't very popular with the conservative / libertarian folks. So you're looking at like a 49.2 to 49.1%. Mm-hmm. 0.1% would be pretty close in a presidential election.
Right. I mean, Perot, he swung back-to-back elections there.
Yeah, in 92, it was 43% Clinton, 37.4% George H.W. Bush, and 18.9% Ross Perot, which is, George H.W. Bush would have clearly won that election.
Yeah.
Had Ross Perot not intervened, and we never would have had to deal with the Clinton family. They never would have really made it onto the national stage. He would have lost that one, and then we never would have heard from Hillary Clinton again.
Pretty much.
Probably.
Yeah.
So thanks, Ross Perot, you fucking cunt. What a piece of shit.
Anything you enjoyed about Dole in particular?
I enjoyed Norm Macdonald making fun of him. That was pretty fun. Bob Dole.
Yeah, Bob Dole.
Good. Bob Dole was very Bob Dole, and he leaned into it. Like, he didn't get butthurt when people talk shit and stuff.
No.
He was a very affable character.
Very self-deprecating.
Yeah.
And self-aware, which I guess requires...
Well, to be a fucking gunfighter in World War II, I doubt a lot of those guys came out with any kind of ego complexes or anything. It's
right.
just like, all right, I'm glad to be alive. This is pretty dope. It was cool.
I didn't realize... I'm trying to remember the Hawaiian senator's name. He was in the hospital with him, though, who was also...
Inouye?
Inouye, yeah.
Inouye, I don't know how you say it. But
Daniel Inouye, yeah.
Yeah, that guy was cool, too. They couldn't be farther apart politically, but I bet they were really good friends.
They were really, really close friends. I don't think they were in the same unit, but they were in the same hospital, because they were both wounded at the same time in Italy, essentially.
No, I don't think they were in the same. But, yeah, we lost Norm Macdonald and Bob Dole in the same year. How often is it that the guy doing the parody dies before the guy... who, is being parodied? I guess maybe I saw somebody posted this on Instagram the other day and tagged us in it. If Saturday Night Live really had any balls, they would bring Donald Trump back to play Alec Baldwin. I thought that was really clever. That would be the funniest thing that's ever happened.
Yeah.
Although I don't think Trump is self-aware enough to pull it off. Like, it would be mean-spirited from him.
He'd probably go off script a little bit, off the books, and just be like, loser, that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
I guess Newt Gingrich outlived Chris Farley. But that's a minor impression. I can't think of any.
Wait, did he do Newt Gingrich?
A little bit. But that's a secondary impression. And I could see, I guess, I don't think either of them are going to die, but it wouldn't surprise me if Bernie Sanders outlived Larry David.
I don't think Bernie Sanders is ever going to die.
But it doesn't feel like Larry David's ever going to die.
No, that's true. They're both very wealthy white men. So
yeah, they're good
luck.
to go.
Although I think Sanders not so wealthy as as his counterpart.
No, he's Vermont wealthy.
I guess. I mean, he's got multiple homes. There's a difference between people give Sanders a lot of guff because he became relatively wealthy in office, but his wealth came from like writing books and shit, which is different than insider trading.
Right.
Although I don't know, he may have been involved in some insider trading, but believe it or not, Bernie Sanders is a lot closer to normal than most of the people in the Democratic Party these days. He's just offering up a solution that should be considered a niche fringe solution, and that the regular Democratic Party should be like, all right, we're going to take these, and these things, and the rest of that, just get the fuck out of here, right? Which is the same thing that the Republican Party should have taken from people like Ross Perot, for one. Like, if they had listened to him in the first place, him and what's the guy's name, Steve Forbes?
Yeah.
If they had listened to those guys, they wouldn't have been impediments to Republicans winning elections. That's how that works. You can go too far, obviously. Like, you could listen to the squad. Right? Because what happens is you can only pull that prank one or two times. They did it this year for sure, or last year rather. They added a lot of the squad's rhetoric to the fucking campaign shit just so they could activate that fringe part of the Democratic Party, and then did none of it afterwards, right?
Yeah,
There's going to be a fucking price to pay for that. You'll see record low left turnout in 2022, for sure. Unless Roe v. Wade is stricken down.
Right.
But that's not going to happen.
One of the things that was funny about Sanders, I do agree with you. He's closer to normal as just like a human being than most people in Congress.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Especially most people in the Senate. There's probably some representatives who are quite a few representatives who are probably fairly economically reflective of a middle class person. But it was funny because like Sanders owns quote unquote 3 homes, and when I remember that got brought up in the debate, and it was funny because I agreed with him, but also it just showed his kind of like lack of self-awareness. Like, he's just not a great politician, where he was like, yes, I own other homes. Like, I have a little lodge. A lot of people in Vermont have it. And part of my brain, like the common sense part of me was like, yeah, I know plenty of middle-class people who have like a dinky farm in Missouri. You know what I mean? Like, just a little bit of land with like an old shitty house that smells like no one's been in it since 1971. Like, it's not impressive, but it is a second piece of real estate.
It smells like shag carpet and mothmothballs.
Literally, yeah.
So I get it. He's not a very self-aware guy, but I don't think he needs to be. He doesn't feel like he's, well, I don't know this for sure, but it seems like he doesn't feel like he's trying to convince anybody about his own character or anything. He's not trying to play a role. He just believes what he believes, and he's trying to put that out there, which I respect that a lot more than these people who fucking say one thing and do another. Which I guess he does to some degree as well, but we all do that to some degree. I mean, we talk about...
Yeah, you don't want him to... I mean, he's a human being.
We talk about... This is a big problem in discourse right now, and one of the things that the University of Austin guys are digging into now, Boghossian especially, about people have this... There's two types of... two ways to see the world, the way it is and the way it ought to be. And too many people see what ought to be, and... You know, that is a goal to get to. Like, yeah, things ought to be this way, and let's try to get as close as we can, but there are some things we can't do. One of the issues is gun control. Like, yeah, we should try to make things as safe as possible, but if it comes at the expense of us not being able to fight back against an oppressive government, then all bets are off. And some people are going to die. It's just the way it is. Guns do make things a little bit more dangerous in some instances. They make things safer in some instances. Overall, they make things quite a bit safer. When you're talking about authoritarianism, right? We've seen that for the last 200 years or so, but mostly in the fucking 20th century.
Right.
Those states, the Soviets, the Chinese, the Germans, the Venezuelans, they all disarmed their population before they fucking butt-fucked them, right? That's how you do that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If you have the ability to turn half the population against their ability to protect themselves, then you've already won at that point. So,
well, that tide seems to be turning.
Yeah, more lefties are buying guns than ever now,
yeah.
which is really funny.
You can probably thank Trump for that.
Yeah.
Trump and COVID.
Probably, yeah. I mean, nobody sold more assault rifles, whatever the fuck that is, than Barack Obama, right?
Yeah.
Just the threat of him doing something somewhere.
But that was to righties, right?
Correct. Now Trump is doing it for the left, and
But I don't think it's ever really been done for the left on that scale before in a long time.
Yeah, I don't think so either for the left. Dan supports red flag laws. No, I mean, I think it's an interesting conversation, though. It's the one Tim Kennedy tried to have, and all you fucking dum-dums lit him up for it. But it's like, if you have information, let's say we have data that says this type of person in this type of situation with this background and these events surrounding them or whatever, or these patterns of behavior are more likely to go commit gun violence somewhere. What exactly should you do with that information? Now, there's two premises. One is that you can create something like red flag laws, but at what expense? And that's what I'm talking about. Like, yeah, in a perfect world, you would be able to do something with that information and there wouldn't be any bad actors in the government trying to use that against the general public, but you know for a fucking fact they will do that immediately.
Right.
Because that's what government does. So fuck that. Red flag laws are completely off the table.
So actually, that's an interesting thing. So this is with red flag laws or whatever, because you don't want, I don't know, like you don't want like a domestic abuser probably to get their hands on a gun because
they can't. It's called the Lottenberg Amendment.
Right. I mean, but there are people that are even then that are like, that's too much because that involves a list of people and blah, blah, blah. But so there's an interesting case that actually just recently got settled. I don't know if you saw this in the Austin American Statesman. It was in Austin. The apartment complex I lived at 3 years ago, right before I moved into my home, there was a shooting. This guy killed another guy in the building, totally at random. Like the type of gun death that never happens, right? There was no connection between the two. There was no, neither of them were involved in crime. Like neither one was really a criminal. It's about as random of a gun death as you could have. Anyway, they just found this guy, Charles Curry, not guilty by reason of insanity. He had been.
If you get found not guilty by reason of insanity, you should be institutionalized for the remainder of your life.
So he is going to be institutionalized, I guess, indefinitely. I don't think they've sentenced him yet. But they had been trying to keep him. His parents had been trying to put him, essentially, like into institutions against his will for a while, and he kept getting discharged for whatever reason. By the way, when they arrested him, they found him shirtless in jorts in a pair of really expensive cowboy boots.
So what is Gardner Minshew? Is this who we're talking about?
He was essentially dressed like Gardner, and people in the building said they saw him running on the treadmill in that outfit like 30 minutes before he was arrested.
I don't see the problem with any of that. Well, maybe the cowboy boots, that's kind of weird. But yeah, it's, So
my question, though, is between a guy who his parents have been trying to institutionalize him for a while,
yeah,
how'd that guy get a gun?
That's a good question. It's the right to due process and the right to bear arms are more important than any one life in this country, in my opinion, and in the opinion of the Supreme Court and a variety of other institutions. Right? This is regardless of what the left might say. This is pretty settled at this point.
Right.
So that's my thinking on that, and it kind of overlays with Crenshaw's. So he put out a statement, I think on Friday, kind of explaining why he voted for that horse shit last week. He was one of 80 Republicans that voted for a bill that he claims will not become a vaccine registry, but that is exactly what it is. And his defense against that wasn't to prove how it wasn't. He just said, that's not what it is. You're being lied to by your own fucking friends and blah, blah, blah. What we really did was they were going to send a bunch of money over there for this program that's already existed to revitalize it and track people's vaccination. And we passed this bill because it's less money than what they wanted before. I'm sorry, what? So somebody wanted to refund or extra fund some government program that tracks people's medical records. And your position is that you voted with the people that you just called authoritarians so that they would get less money instead of just voting against it. You're a fucking idiot. That's the dumbest shit I've ever fucking heard. Dude, goddamn. The fuck is wrong with you people? I mean, he's just, that's he's making the fundamental mistake of believing that the system as it is works and that Republicans are simply better at it and better for America than Democrats. That is his position. And that is just establishment politics, and it's why we are in the mess we are in today. So he's just more of the same, which is why Dakota and I, not to drag him into this, although he would definitely co-sign this, when people are saying more veterans need to get involved in politics, I would say which veterans? Right? Not officers for the most part, because that's the way they think.
You mean like that guy who was here who you could have French kissed if you asked him?
Yeah, but he's not a veteran.
I know.
He just wants to get more veterans in politics. Like, all right, cool, dude. Most of the people I know in the military were fucking knuckleheads.
When you told him that was one of the funniest things I've ever heard.
I had a good time saying it out loud, I'm not gonna lie. Let's see. Busby. Yeah, I would like to ask you more questions about that, my man. It's a Bureau of Pharmaceutical database that's ran at ran at the state level. That's true. He mentioned that, but and I know Barebow, and I know that not all officers think like that. Some of my very dear friends, Ben Walker, Will Kanda, are former or current officers. There's plenty of good ones. Colin Grada is another one. I just saw him not too long ago. It's just the way they think. They think institutional. So you give a problem to a sergeant, and he's going to break everything, including the rules, to get the job done. And you give a problem to a lieutenant, and he's going to look on a checklist and figure out what he's allowed to do. That's the difference, right? And we don't have time for that horse shit in this kind of political landscape. We just don't have time for it.
Is part of that because one can get punished more than the other?
I think it's...
can one get in more trouble than the other for not following whatever kind of protocol?
Not necessarily. I think they're just institutionalized, to be honest.
Okay.
And there's a bit more anti-authoritarianism from the, I guess you could say, the lower class, as there always is in any fucking hierarchy, right? Where is it? Busby. The questions I have are, what exactly does it track? I suppose, because I've read plenty on this. I just think, from what my understanding, I don't want the state tracking my medical shit. I don't want the federal government. I don't want anybody tracking my medical shit. It's none of your fucking business.
Right.
What I do. Fuck off, man. Because we've seen what they do with it. I mean, right now, so there's two separate...
Which, I mean, there are a ton of private companies selling your medical data already.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
even if you get like a 23andMe, there's, they talk about how that, like, they send that shit, or that shit gets bought by like insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies, your DNA to see, which is not to say like, what's one more, but people do readily give up their DNA data.
It's one thing with a fucking company, and it's another thing entirely with the government. Right? Because a company can't come punish me for it. And you're seeing it now, this bend towards authoritarianism that's coming from the left lately. Newsom, despite nearly getting, well, I guess he didn't, the vote wasn't that close because they had a shitty candidate. But despite getting recalled and being really unpopular there, instituted another emergency until fucking March. Based on what? I have no idea.
Look, he might as well YOLO at this point.
Yeah. And then, New York, so there's two current federal level mandates, both of which have been stricken down in federal court, or at least temporarily stayed in federal court. And on his way out the fucking door as a lame duck, de Blasio thinks that he has the authority to fucking require private businesses to mandate vaccines for his employees, or their employees. They have no fucking authority to do that. That's going to get stricken down immediately in federal court.
Right.
Like probably by next week. And also, everybody over 5 years old has to get a vaccine passport. I saw this. I happened to be looking at Fox.
Give me your papers, Billy.
Yeah, I happened to be flipping through the news this morning and saw this dude on Fox saying, how exactly are we to punish the 6-year-old for not having his fucking passport?
Right.
Like, you're going to tax his allowance or some shit? It's the dumbest thing of all time.
This is already an issue in Canada. So one of these like famous YouTubers that I follow, his kids play hockey. And on teams, you have to show passport, Canadian ID, in something else as well to get into the hockey rink to play. And sometimes these kids just forget their stuff and put it in the wrong bag, and like they're just leaving them outside the ice rink, just sitting like waiting for the rest of the team to play.
So it's like an Arrested Development lesson. Like they're just terrify the children.
Yeah, you just got to get a one-armed dude to get involved at some point. What was his name?
Oh, fuck. Can we look up the Arrested Development, the one-armed guy?
Why you always leave a note.
But in this case, that's why you always have a note.
J. Walter Weatherman is his name. Yeah.
By the way, with the de Blasio thing, so I just looked this up real quick. As far as the mandate goes, the state of New York set 69.1% of the state of New York is fully vaccinated. So you have to assume the city's probably a bit higher.
Right, but the problem is who isn't in the city that isn't, and it's primarily black people.
Yes.
Like 60% of the black population there is not vaccinated, which means you're effectively banning black people from public spaces.
Well, now from working, I guess, too.
Yeah. Well, they can't. There's no enforcement for this.
Well, I know, but the point is with the mandate like there, of all places, it's, I mean, what percentage are you trying to hit? I mean, I have the vaccine. I support people getting it, but like the mandates sketch me out. And also it seems unnecessary when you're probably pushing 75 to 80% in your city, you would think.
Well, I mean, ultimately, there can never be a government mandate for a certain medical treatment. That should not be allowed in any way, ever. Especially not in a case like this. I mean, we're way beyond the point where COVID is dangerous to society, right? How many people have gotten it? Like 30 or 40 million people have gotten it, and 65% of the country is vaccinated or some shit like that.
59 point something. I have all the Google notes. 59.9, so 60% basically.
Yeah, I mean it's absolute nonsense. This can never be the case.
There's been 50 million cases and 60 million vaccinated, though you got to assume there's crossover there. So I don't know, probably like 90 million people have immunity in the United States.
Yeah, and we're all good then, right? James, as to polio was quite a bit more dangerous than this. If we had at any point just had a nationwide COVID party and gotten everybody sick all at the same time, hospitals would have been a bit fucked. More people than necessary would have died, particularly old and fat people. But we wouldn't have had, it would not have been like millions of people would not have died. It's just not true. Because we've seen the fucking results now. This thing ran rampant from November until March. November of 19 until March of 2020. And who the fuck knows how many people got it then? We didn't even track that shit until like late January. So, this is just fucking nonsense. I mean, Washington and just power in general will always try to gain more power. That's what it does. You know what I mean? I mean, if you're a baseball player and you're good at hitting, you try to get better at hitting. If you're good at gobbling up resources and stealing people's fucking liberty away, you get better at that too. So I don't know what people expect out of this.
Speaking of gobbling up resources, heard there's a rumor that Russia's getting a little handsy on Ukraine again. Actually, like this time, they're just going for.
Well, it's not really
a home run.
Rumors so much as it is satellite images of fucking hundreds of thousands of troops on the border there.
Yeah.
I think it's like 170 or something. I don't remember the exact number. 175, yeah. So this is nothing new. Russia, North Korea, less so China these days. I think they make more deliberate moves for their own cause, but I think Russia is more of a throw a jab and wait for a counter and then you counter. You know what I mean? I think that's their deal because they're smaller, right? They have to play strategy more. America is both a financial and military behemoth.
Well, and they've lost. People forget this a lot of times. Russia's biggest strength, basically throughout all its history, militarily, was that they could bleed anyone to death.
Yeah,
and they have half the population in the United States.
Yeah,
so they really and obviously NATO has a bigger population, and The European Union has a bigger population, so their ability to bleed people out doesn't exist anymore.
Well, there's also more.
Or outbleed people, should say.
Yeah. Just attrition war.
Yeah.
There's also more people aligned against them and less satellite nations that are communists feeding them resources and whatever else, right? Or at least distracting America. Like when we had to fight, not had to, but when we chose to fight all those micro wars during the Cold War, that took a lot of the pressure off of Russia specifically. But once we shifted from containment to détente to rollback, when we were the rollback phase, we just outspent them. And we could do that again right now. That's what we should be doing. We should be, and the same with China, we should be spending all of our money. We should start a new arms race, but for space, right? Like we should be pumping money into all of them, into Virgin, into fucking SpaceX, and into whatever
Blue Origin.
Blue Origin, yeah, that's the worst name.
Fucking Wang rocket.
But we should be spending a bunch of money in there. And to be frank, and I'm surprised that Neil deGrasse Tyson's made a couple of comments about it, I think, over time, but Trump kind of reinvigorated NASA by kind of privatizing it a little bit with these other companies and sending funds to them. And you could say whatever you want about that strategy, but that's what Obama tried to do with solar, right? With Solyndra and all those other companies that completely fucking tanked. Now, Blue Origin isn't tanking, and neither is SpaceX. They're fucking crushing it.
Yeah.
So maybe they're just mad that Trump was better than Obama at doing that, right? Or maybe it's just more feasible that we can do that type of shit with space than it is to, right now the storage for energy is a problem. That's the problem with solar. Like if energy storage obeyed Moore's law, which is every 18 months the relative size of hard drive space shrinks. So if this was a gigabyte 18 months ago, it would be half this size now for a gigabyte, right?
Yeah.
But energy storage hasn't worked that way. We're still having problems with it. So if we're able to make some pretty big leaps in energy storage, we'll be able to switch to solar like that, like immediately. As soon as that tech is figured out and we find a way to make it easily, then that shit's over. We don't need fossil fuels anymore ever again, probably.
Yeah.
But the way you get to it isn't to require everybody to switch by 2030. Like, that's not even feasible. We have 6.5 million electric cars in the country right now, and we need 280 million. And we can only make like fucking, I think at the most that we can make is, I'm sorry, we think we have 20 million, and we can only make 6.5 a year, something like that. Yeah, 23 million.
It helps too, I think, with the space stuff that these people, obviously solar was around before that got like massively subsidized by the government or anything, but it seems that these impossibly rich people are like super invested in space. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're really into it, whereas solar was either the companies weren't as big, they weren't backed by as big of people, or if they were, it's just like, yeah, here's our solar stuff.
You should pay attention to that too, because these guys care about money more than anything else. So if they're investing in that shit, then you should take that for what
not
it's
just
worth.
investing, like
starting
pivoting
companies,
to it.
yeah.
Like it's like their main, like Bezos and Musk in particular. That's like their main fucking thing now.
Yeah, and you can't assume that Bezos or Musk are doing it in some way to prop up the fucking fossil fuel or nuclear energy sectors, because why would they?
Right.
Like if SpaceX, let's just say for sake of argument, were able to, if they were able to develop a technology to capture and store solar energy efficiently in a way that we need it right now, first of all, they would make all of the money that exists, right?
Right.
I mean, it would be over for OPEC. Iran's done. Saudi Arabia's done. All those countries, they go fucking bankrupt that day.
Even Russia.
Russia, to a large degree, yeah.
Because of the natural gas.
Like we can immediately bankrupt them and refuse to give them the technology too, right? Which would be a dick move, but fuck them, right? They would immediately be doing that, and also they would be using it probably proprietarily inside of their own technology systems that they're using now, including Amazon or AWS Web Services and Blue Origin and fucking SpaceX, so on and so forth.
Yeah, it probably costs a lot to air condition. Well, he probably doesn't air condition Amazon warehouses,
Yeah.
but
Well, if you're getting involved in the stock market, it probably would benefit you quite a bit to pay attention to what really good people and what they invest in and what they don't, what they short, what they don't, and so on and so forth. You learn lessons there. And right now, the lesson we're learning is that banks are funding a shit ton of property on the coast, right? Which means we're not losing coastline like these assholes said we were, because the banks would not fund that shit. Would
they pay someone to say the coastline is disappearing and then buy the dipped property?
Are you asking me if banks will commit crimes?
Yes.
Yes, the answer is yes. Of course they would. So, I mean, it's hard to know what's real these days, I guess, because so many people do that shit. But as far as Russia goes, to circle back to that, yeah, they're putting people on the border now because they have to. Like they can't keep up with us or China with the space stuff, and that's been dominating the headlines lately. So they've got to do something.
So that's the thing with Russia to me that is always a little frightening, is that they seem desperate.
Yep.
Whereas China, this is probably the scarier thing, but I'll be dead maybe, so who cares? China's like, we can wait.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, China's playing the long game. I mean,
Russia doesn't have a long game to play.
No, and that's the problem. It's the problem they faced during the Cold War. It's why they collapsed, because we just outspent them.
Right.
Like that whole Star Wars program that Reagan tried to do, that wasn't even fucking real. I mean, they tried to do some of it, but I don't think anybody actually believed they could do it.
Right.
Because they're just now, the weapon they wanted to develop in the mid-'80s, they just now developed. China just now developed it. Like
the Star Wars program?
Yeah.
Not
like
the claw machine in space where you just pull satellites out and throw it at the space station.
Yeah. No, that's like, I don't know, the Force, right? No, I'm talking about actual air-to-air weapons or space-to-space weapons,
right.
I guess, for lack of a better phrase.
The Jewish lasers, as they were.
Yeah. So, it'll be interesting to see what...
So what I was going to ask is, they're building people up on the border. People forget because it kind of leaves the news cycle oddly quickly, but they've invaded countries recently, smaller countries, but then they leave, right? Like Georgia.
I mean, that's been going on for the last 15 years or so.
Yeah,
right.
I think Georgia twice. Chechnya, they've just been fighting a war in, although...
No one gives a fuck about Chechnya.
And also, I almost can't blame them for Chechnya, considering how often Chechens commit terrorist acts inside of Russia.
Yeah, I mean, that's almost like it's almost like a Palestine-Israel situation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of everything that Israel does, but you got to be, I mean, some of it is understandable for sure.
Yeah.
I just think, that's probably a good analog.
But who is Georgia twice? When there was someone else, maybe I can't remember. But Georgia,
well, they've stacked up on the Ukraine a couple times.
They have, and they have Crimea, Crimea, obviously. But that one was more subtle, like more subverted, subdued, or whatever. Like they didn't really, or if they sent in their troops, they weren't uniformed. They were Ukrainian separatists. Blah blah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas Georgia was just like they rolled in armored divisions.
Well, if you can convince anybody that's looking, including your own people and anybody that might try to stop you, that one side is irredeemably evil or an existential threat, then you can do almost anything to stop them. You know what I mean? Like, if we had dropped a nuke on Berlin, if we had it in 43 or 42 or whatever, if we had dropped a nuke just on the city of Berlin, I don't think anybody would have given a shit.
To this day, no one would have blinked at that.
Yeah, I don't think so. And if you need any evidence for that, we dropped 2 bombs on 2 major cities in Japan and annihilated 300,000 people in about, well, not including all the people that died later. So,
although now people are that's a hot debate now, but
yeah,
I'm not really sure why, because they were every bit as evil as the Nazi regime.
But and that one is I think an example of reality. Like the Nazis were pretty rough. We had to do something about that for sure.
Yeah.
Like I can deal with, well, I don't know. That's a good debate to have. Like how many people does a head of state have to kill in their own country before we're ethically required to do something about it? I don't know the answer to that, because we sure let China and Russia get away with a lot. If we have way more.
I suppose you got to weight that with how many of your own it will cost to deal with it.
Right, but if we had done it to be honest, I guess America's just tired of war. at the beginning of the Cold War, but if we had, a lot of people complained that we didn't march all the way to Baghdad in Desert Storm,
Right.
which would have been a huge mistake. I don't know why. Well, and then that whole defense apparatus came back in the Bush administration and did it anyways,
Right.
which is obviously a mistake. But marching all the way to Moscow, that might have been a good decision.
So I was actually thinking about this the other day, and I wanted to ask you about that because they talk about that with World War I all the time.
There would have been
right?
huge losses. Yeah, I mean, look, the Paris Accords were fucking bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't do that. That's like whipping a guy's ass and you give him his guns back and be like, all right, now get the fuck out of here. And you fire him, take his job away, and fuck him over, but he's still got a bunch of guns. So what the fuck you think's going to happen, man?
Well, another reason they thought that a lot of World War I and people who were in both wars said that Germany probably wouldn't have done it again if they had marched to Berlin the first time and finished the job, because while the German people suffered from the blockades and food shortages and stuff like that, war never really touched Germany.
No, and they were able to, I mean, Hitler was able to finesse the population. He was able to say all these problems. He didn't even blame it necessarily on the Paris Accords. He blamed it on Jews.
Right.
Right? Like that was a pretty easy fucking finesse for him.
His whole argument was essentially like, dude, we were winning. And then the Jews. But then it's funny, at the end of the Second World War, Churchill and Patton in particular, if you remember that scene from Patton, where he's on the phone with Bradley and he's like, we need to fucking go fight the Russians now. And he's like, you fucking crazy, dude. They're probably tapping this line. Like, shut the fuck up. But it does seem like we left another unfinished job, which is understandable because there was no more appetite for war, like you said. And the losses would have been fucking insane. But
I mean, you say that there was no appetite for war, but we were in Korea really quickly after we left fucking Germany.
We wanted a snack in between lunch and dinner.
Yeah.
But we were full at lunch at the time. We wanted an afternoon snack. It didn't take long for that. But it seems like we kind of kicked the can down the road because here we are still dealing with a Russia that was never liberated. And we also didn't get as invested as we probably should have in China.
No, we should have done the same thing in China that we did in Japan. I don't understand. Certainly there was more of a proclivity towards communism and shit in China and than there was in Japan. Obviously, they didn't give a fuck about communism. Come on, but
no, they hated communists.
Yeah, but like money, we could have done a lot of stuff in China post World War II. I think it reminds me a lot of the post-Revolutionary War, where George Washington wanted to repair the relationship with Britain as soon as possible, and we fucked the French over in the process. In this case, we took more care to help our enemy than we did China, who was not our enemy at the time, right? Which was obviously a huge mistake. And we did the same thing with the Mujahideen as well. They weren't our enemy. When we were fighting Russia together or helping them fight Russia, we spent more time repairing our relationship diplomatically with Russia after the wall fell, than we did taking care of fucking Afghanistan. And we see how that worked out too. We just keep making the same mistakes over and over.
Well, it's ironic too that, even though Russia was a fucking freight train at the end of World War II, right?
Yeah.
Probably the easiest shot we would have ever had because there's no nuclear weapons involved on their end. And also, their Air Force had gotten really good by the end of the war, but they didn't really have... their armored divisions were insane. They might have rolled on ours because the T-34 would fuck up like 20 Shermans. But air power-wise, the Allies the Western Allies had the clear advantage there.
Yeah, for sure. We've had air superiority for a long time. Ivan Huerta says that George Washington died before the first dinosaur was categorized, so he never knew they existed. Yeah.
It's accurate.
It's true. It's sad for him.
Fun historical fact I learned yesterday. Today is St. Nicholas Day.
Like the German weirdo that gave stuff to kids?
Greek.
Oh, he's Greek. Okay. So it used to be normal to Bill Burr used to do a bit about this. Like, remember when you used to be able to walk up to a 5-year-old and tussle his hair and be like, hey, what's up, you little dick? And just walk away. Now you're like fucking on a watch list if you do shit like that. And I think there's some... I've been meaning to ask. I want to have. I think our CFO is here. He books our guests and shit. I'm going to have him book Brett Weinstein and Heather high again, because I want to ask them as evolutionary biologists and also people that delve into philosophy a little bit. I want to know what the psychological and evolutionary benefit of trusting other people is. There's got to be some reward for it, otherwise we wouldn't do it, right?
Right.
Like it's probably just broadening your safety net in general and giving you. It's probably doing something for Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like it's satisfying some needs so you can do other shit. But I don't know.
It allows you to sleep, right?
Maybe.
Yeah. I like
Someone's
sleep.
watching your back while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
You take turns.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's like Bubba Gump and Bubba and Forrest in the swamp, back to back. By the way, if you're ever in a swamp, don't urinate with your dick underwater because parasites will crawl up into your dick hole.
While you're peeing,
Yeah.
even though the stream's going all the way out?
Yeah. They're better than you.
That's fair.
But really, I mean, they hang out around the dick hole, and once it opens up, they fucking crawl.
Just
in
waiting
there.
to get in. Like they're at the VIP lounge.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, it is fair.
Oh, I was going to say St. Nicholas. Santa Claus,
Yeah.
patron saint of prostitutes.
Good for him.
Yeah,
So we're celebrating this all wrong.
pretty much.
Because Jesus wasn't born in December, right? December 25th is just a static date for the winter solstice.
Saturnalia was a big Roman holiday.
Yeah. So Western culture and Christianity kind of stole all the pagan holidays, like Easter is one, and
Yeah.
Christmas.
Actually-
the two big ones.
Yeah, Easter is probably closer to when he was born. If there was a census,
I think.
it's like March, something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it would have been like you have to time it from when Mary was pregnant and headed back into the city for the census, because we know when the census was.
Right.
So she was at least in the third trimester when that was happening. So you can kind of guess based on that. But it definitely was 100% not December 25th.
No.
Right. Although, I mean, who gives a fuck about birthdays? Christmas isn't about. I don't know how long it was about Jesus, but probably not for very long, because how is Thanksgiving really about the colonization of America? Not really. It's just an excuse to get together with your family, and the general motif is that we're gonna be thankful for shit.
Yeah.
Right. But that's a far cry from sitting down to. I mean, if our Thanksgiving traditions were to, let's say, if you are a white Republican in Georgia, to go to Compton and have dinner with a black liberal family or black Democrat family, that would be Thanksgiving to me. But what we do now is meaningless. It's just fun to eat food and shit.
Didn't it have something to do with the lost colonies? Originally, like they were one of the first settlers to survive that era, and they did the Thanksgiving.
Well, they survived the era because the natives helped them with some things.
Yeah.
And we
Foolishly.
we gave it back to them. One of the things I like to say is that you should apologize with your actions and not your words, right?
Yeah.
Because words are meaningless unless there's action behind it. And I would say that you should be thankful with your actions as well, right? So whenever I do something for somebody and they thank me for it, I'm like, you don't need to thank me. Just make sure that when you're in a position to help somebody else and you do it. It's that simple. That's how you thank people. Because those words might make you feel good for 5 minutes, but living in a better, calmer, safer society where people take care of each other has exponential effects. So for me, it's not like I'm a fucking good person. I am doing the math.
Yeah.
It's social math at that point.
That's why I stopped saying thank you for paychecks, because you would give me that advice, and I would feel obligated to go give the entire thing to a homeless person.
No, not like that.
And I've been so broke for so long.
Your baby is
He's got free food. It's fine.
it's what is homeless exactly? Because a lot of the people that are considered homeless in America are staying with a friend. Like people will say, "Oh, I was homeless for 6 months." I'm like, "Oh, where'd you live?"
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, my
What
buddy's
bridge?"
house."
Yeah.
Like, nope, that's not homeless, bro.
Dude, I fucking killed it as a homeless person when I first moved to Austin, staying at my aunt and uncle's vacation spot in Spicewood.
That's probably good. That's where Dakota lives.
That's house sitting.
No,
So
that's
it's a little different.
That's called being homeless.
He was squatting.
Yeah.
I did live with some friends a lot in college on a lot of couches.
You were homeless.
Yeah, I was high class homeless. I called it high class homeless.
No,
Yeah.
you're just homeless.
Like girls would come back and be like, "Where's your room?" And I'd be like, "That couch."
One of when I was in school, our fraternity cook was found himself homeless and asked if he could sleep in our basement on the couch. That's where the kitchen was. And we were like, yeah, sure. That sounds cool. And he was great, man. Dwight would like cook us quesadillas in the middle of the night and shit when we were drunk. And then we all went home he made us a whole Thanksgiving like spread. And then we all went home for Thanksgiving break, and he robbed the fraternity house.
Suckers.
A lot of PlayStation 2s going.
Long con right there.
No good deed goes unpunished. People hear that and think that it's cynical or that you should not do good deeds. I think the message is that you shouldn't do good things because of the reward, right? Because even the Bible addresses that. Even I think it says even criminals are nice to their own family or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Something to that effect. I'm not saying that you should be nice to your enemies necessarily. Turning the other cheek. There's something to be said for temperance.
Yeah.
Certainly. And for being patient with people because everybody's going through a lot of shit. Life is fucked up. But if you swing at me, I'm going to shoot you in the face a bunch of times.
I brush my teeth solely to go to heaven.
I don't think that's in the Bible, although respecting your parents is one of the top commandments. So,
And they told me to brush my teeth. I've done it every day since.
well,
I always go by he who is last on earth is first in the kingdom of heaven. So I try to be as bad as possible and just sin every day.
that's not what that means.
Oh.
The meek shall inherit the earth, right? So people that aren't full of pride is what it means.
Balls are no longer full of semen.
Let's see. There's two more things I want to talk about today. One of them is Juicy Smollett.
Currently testifying.
Yeah, that's a huge fucking mistake, right? I mean, I haven't seen how it's going yet, but God, that can't be good. So far, he said that he visited a bunch of gay bathhouses, took drugs.
With one of the brothers.
And then masturbated with one of the guys who, quote-unquote, beat him up. Now, there's surveillance footage from his... of them rehearsing the shit.
Yeah.
The day before, right, or the week before, or something like that. The two brothers are testifying against him. He has no alibi, no fucking this. I don't understand why
They're putting him on the stand to lie.
Yeah, basically. So when he gets found guilty, are they going to also add fucking perjury charges onto that? Like I don't know. I don't know how far he's willing to go. It seems like it's going to be like that Gage Grosskreutz thing, where he finally gets asked a question that he's like, "Oh yeah, you're right." Fuck.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like the Chicago prosecution is out for blood.
Well, he made a fool of them, right?
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what Womb Raider, you're right about that. The meek is nonviolent. It'll be interesting to see how Kamala Harris responds to this because she made a big deal about it. Mm-hmm. Probably won't because her entire staff has fled the scene. Don't tell me how to flee, Michael. That's a great quote. Our what is it? Our Mexican friends down in Colombia.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mean Colombians? Yeah. It's. I don't know. This seems like a huge fucking mistake.
Letting him take. This. Yeah. I mean, in that AP story I sent you, they were kind of like conjecturing that this is maybe his best chance to get off. That being essentially like, I don't know, look how stupid he is. Of course he didn't realize what was going on. Like he thought it was real.
Maybe, but he says, so now he's saying that the check that he wrote to these two dum-dums was for nutrition and training advice, which, I mean, they're both yoked, so
yeah,
that's not the worst lie I've ever heard.
And he says that they were homophobic.
They probably were, right? Two fucking Nigerian dudes that are all jacked up on steroids. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. That seems legit. What doesn't seem legit though is all the fucking lies he's already told and been caught in.
Right.
And the rehearsal, that's pretty rough.
Yeah.
Like if I'm the prosecution, I'm just playing that over and over again. So like, what are you guys doing here? What's this?
As an American though, I have to respect him for sticking to his guns no matter what.
There's still a fucking point where everybody admits that they're lying. Even serial killers get bored with the lie and just like, all right, I'm guilty, man. Fuck.
Someone come get me.
Like, there's no way. I don't know. I don't know.
Do you
what's
think
going
serial
on.
killers are eventually like, this is on you guys now?
No, serial killers want the credit. They
know,
want everybody to know how clever they are. So that's how that usually goes. I just think that this is a fucking huge mistake by him, and I think that he's. It'll be interesting to see what happens. It'll be interesting to see if he gets jail time, or if it's like a fine or some kind of extended probation or whatever.
They keep saying the most likely outcome is probation and community service, and I think what the city wants is the verdict.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, he should go to. Who's the victim in this, right?
The taxpayer, I guess. I mean, but honestly, in a lot of ways,
The public.
the public, yeah, the way that
Yeah, but that's like parentheses you in a sentence. You can't.
Right.
There's no crimes against the public, like what, disturbing the peace? Maybe. I mean, what are they going to actually?
He is charged. That is what he's charged with,
Yeah,
disturbing the peace.
It's like
6
filing
times.
a false report and disturbing the peace, basically.
Yeah.
Inciting a riot, possibly?
No.
It's
That's-
6 counts of disturbing the peace by filing a false report. Or something like
The
that.
requirement for incitement is Brandenburg v. Ohio, and it's way outside of what he's done. Yeah, it'll. I think the real justice will be if people on the left. I'm sorry, if liberals will reject people on the left. There's a distinction between those two, right? Like even neoliberals aren't the left that everybody refers to. The left is like 8 to 15% of the Democratic Party or associated leftist organizations that are the loudest but represent very few people in reality. The same thing with far-right people. It just represents very few people. It just gets all the news. So I think it's a good thing to distinguish between the left or leftists and liberals, because I don't have a problem with liberals necessarily. I have some disagreements with them. But by and large, classical liberals don't really try to fuck people up that much.
Right.
It just doesn't happen. So anyways, it would be interesting to see what Democrats and liberals, real liberals, do in response to this. If he gets convicted, they're like, you know what, fuck that guy for, it's like there's real issues that are going on, and him trying to profit both in stature and financially from this shit is a problem.
Yeah.
And that can't be allowed. And, you know, you don't have to, I don't think that the right should expect an apology. I don't think they deserve an apology, right? I mean, just everybody's doing this shit all the time. Just everybody needs to start holding their own side accountable. And that'll bring us to our last story, which is that CNN's doing that finally. The unemployment rate amongst Cuomo brothers is now 100%.
No.
So, you know, it's too bad. The I guess the straw that broke the camel's back was what I'm being told from some people in the news is an actually credible sexual. I don't know if it's harassment or assault necessarily, but I'm being told that the claim is pretty credible.
Okay.
So he's probably going to get lit up for that.
It's kind of annoying, though, that that's what they would get rid of him for. It seems like a cop-out. Mm-hmm. If it's credible, absolutely, like, fire him for that. But, I mean...
Well, I don't know if that was the final decision maker. I think they were just... I think the indefinite suspension was to find time to figure out who you're going to put in that time slot, because that's their most important time slot. Do we put... I think Anderson Cooper's a little too soft for that time slot. And you can't put Don Lemon there.
What do you mean, not, like, bombastic enough?
Yeah. And Don Lemon may be facing his own issues.
Yeah.
Sometime in the near future, and you can't, keep going through there. And Stelter's not moving.
Stelter's not moving. Tapper's pretty understated.
Tapper is the one that I'm hearing is going to be put there.
Really?
Yeah, which would be interesting because he's a relatively quiet guy. I mean, if I was going to do Tapper, I might just put Anderson Cooper in that position and have Tapper do Cooper's spot. But who knows?
Yeah.
Though I'm sure they'll figure it out. But it'll be interesting to see as these far left pundits that are they're just getting chipped away at over and over and over again. We'll see what happens with Stelter, because he's an incompetent tool as well. But I don't think he's criminally liable for anything, so far as we can tell.
No, he's just the guy. I hate to use like a high school analogy, like those are my glory days or something, because they weren't. But like, he's just like the fucking overly political idiot that you hate in high school who like runs the school newspaper or like the high school version of College Democrats or something. It's just like, I don't know. He's always huffy and worked up and you don't believe anything he says ever. That's just like, I just track that onto him as an adult.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. It's really just like you just look at him and you know who he is immediately. And you're just like, wow, you're a millionaire from that now.
Yeah.
That's upsetting.
Yeah, well, so I said that was going to be the last one, but Medina Spirit has died.
R.I.P.
There's a shirt on drinkinbros.com with Medina Spirit snorting a line of cocaine.
Those who fly closest to the sun burn fastest.
Yeah, I don't think that the horse was doing cocaine, but it did fail a couple drug tests. Although, who knows what really happened here.
R.I.P. one of the greatest athletes of our time, to be honest.
Yeah, R.I.P.
Set new track record on pretty hard conditions, from what I understand.
Probable cardiac event, according to the on-site veterinary team.
Was it from getting injected with horse steroids constantly?
Yeah.
By the way, I sent a picture to Drinkin Bros Gmail. Will you pull it up? It's an important piece of breaking news.
He was also a trash horse. So, like, Baffert bought him pretty cheap. He was kind of like a...
He's got lucky with him.
Yeah.
Baffert knows what he's doing.
Yeah, but he found him on, like, the side of the road.
He's like a Seabiscuit, like a hobo horse.
Essentially, he ignored, Medina Spirit till he
blindsided him.
He did.
Like
Again, we're talking about Mark Wahlberg's character in The Fighter.
We're not.
I don't know what we're talking. We're talking about if like the Hulk was based on like a homeless person that they found and put gamma radiation into.
Yeah, Barebone says Omicron got the horse. I mean, that horse would be the first person to die from it.
Yeah.
In the entire world.
All right, we got it, Rob.
So this is the photo you want, Rob?
Yeah, there's some breaking news with Nick Cannon, if you want to just go through this slideshow. I was on television today.
Are you just talking about how he has a hog?
Yeah, Nick Cannon's fucking packing.
Wow.
That's surprising.
That's weird. I don't think that's real. We would have noticed that in one of his million fucking things before now.
That's what's trending on Twitter right now. It caught my eye. I just wanted to share it with the world.
It looks like the hog is connecting here, and that seems a little out of place. And this definitely looks like some sort of stretch tool in
But
Photoshop.
all the different angles, who's got time for that?
Are you claiming that he's stuffing?
And I'm claiming that he's shopped. I'm claiming that this is shopped. Because look at this indent right here. Like who had and then this looks like a whole nother.
Yeah, why
ball.
would the balls be up that high and then the dick still out there? I don't know.
I mean, maybe if it's like he's wearing briefs and like that's at the elastic line of the brief.
It looks like his balls are above his shaft.
Right, like
that
that's the head clearly.
Yeah, that doesn't track for me unless he's got like a fucking 15-foot dick. Either way, if he's got a big dick, I mean, considering the size of Mariah Carey's ass, he's got to be packing just to get in there, right?
Right.
So, good for him.
Yeah. I choose to believe in magic. I always choose to believe.
I like Nick Cannon. He seems like an art guy, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he came out and said, I can never be with one woman. That's why I've got like 8 kids with 8 different chicks. He's just like, I just can't do it.
He's a hard worker.
I'm not. Oh, he's a fucking grinder. Yeah, he actually grinds, not like Instagram grinds. Like he literally does not have time in his life to post on anything. I don't think.
Rise and grind.
Yeah.
Lauren Manley says Drinkin Bros boxer briefs next. We're actually working on that, but we do have a. You can go. What is it? What's the name of that company? Thigh Huggers. Yeah, we have shorts on Thigh Huggers already. If you want to expose your genitals in public.
It's pretty cool.
Speaking of that, if you want, if there's any new merch you guys want to see, like obviously not T-shirt ideas, because if you send me a T-shirt idea, I will fucking launch it into the ocean with you attached to it, because I don't want to hear that shit. But if it's like different types of products, water bottles or dildos or whatever, you can send those to our DMs on Instagram or comment here on YouTube. Somebody will pick it up. Brittany will scan for that and put it in there. Or if there's certain sayings, I guess if there's certain quotes from one of us that you want on a shirt, or I don't know, like a picture of Bob with whitest man in the universe or something like that, that would be pretty fun. If you got ideas like that, I'm fine with it.
I like this Medina Spirit that you were talking about before, and the white hoodie here, very newspaper-esque.
Yeah.
Grab it while it's still available.
Yeah, before they fucking come after us for slandering or whatever the
No,
fuck.
before it sells out, because this is now a priceless item since it died.
It is, yeah, and I'll sign each one of these if you if you buy it and bring it. If you buy anything from Drinkin' Bros store and bring it, I'll sign it. But yeah, that's
I also like the Vitruvian Dan, also another favorite of mine.
yep, that's me on drugs. R.I.P. Ross shirts. That would be pretty funny, actually. We should have
We should
Ross.
do that, yeah.
So Jared quit drinking like 3 years ago, and we all got. It was during the full-on MAGA phase. So we all got MAGA hats made, but it said "Make Jared Drink Again."
Yeah.
So we should get R.I.P. Ross stuff made, but only he's allowed to wear it.
Yeah.
And
I
he
like
can.
that.
It's like it's like a sports game where he takes it off after everyone signs it and gives it to somebody, but he has to wear that shirt for the rest of his life.
I still think we should have gotten an actual headstone for Ross for the set
It's not too late.
with an epitaph.
I mean, we could just dress him up as a headstone when he comes back.
Yeah.
Has anyone else noticed, though, like as Jared's health has been increasing and getting better, Ross has been decreasing?
Yeah, maybe Ross is John Coffey.
You think so? It seems more likely that Jared is some sort of vampire.
When Ross does come back, though, we need to start like it's an Avril Lavigne situation where one of his friends replaces him. It's not actually Ross.
There's a conspiracy. It's not really Ross.
It'll be Forrest Whitaker.
We call him some other name, like accidentally off camera a bunch of times.
Yeah, one of his actor friends just comes in and fills in for Ross and is now Ross.
We're like,
Remember-
Klain, you're right.
Yeah.
Ross
Ross,
is.
yeah.
Like that episode of The Office where that Asian dude pretends to be Jim.
Yeah.
And they changed the pictures and everything. That'd be really funny. Like if we changed the logo temporarily to Clayton Crawford's face. That would be pretty fun. Although Ross is probably going to be, if Michigan somehow wins the national title, he may be dead for real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dead or incarcerated.
It'll be one of the two for sure.
I think he implodes and causes like a black hole.
It's honestly almost too perfect that the first school standing in the way of Michigan is Georgia,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it feels like that sets up perfectly for Ross to it's like a double rage situation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you guys are gonna. We'll talk about this next week on the bowl season preview show. But I don't know if there's any chance Cincinnati can beat Alabama, right? I mean, Georgia had one of the best defenses I've ever seen. Cincinnati's got a pretty good defense, but Alabama picked Georgia apart.
Yeah.
Like they weren't even there.
It's part of it's the Saban curse, like Dan was saying earlier, the Saban assistant curse.
Doesn't lose.
And part of it, too, is just, I don't know. I mean, you got to think, I know Alabama always gets everyone's best shot, but this is like literally the game of Cincinnati's
Entire existence, yeah. I mean, look, I don't think it's going to be. Is the
line's
spread out?
13.5.
Yeah, that's about right. I think it's probably a 2-score game. Maybe they keep it to 1 score. Maybe, but probably 2-score.
I mean,
think
look,
they do.
Bama. Dan was saying this too in the show earlier, in the last show, Monday Morning Recap. People are probably overreacting a bit to Bama's performance against Georgia. This is the same team that lost to a mediocre A&M. I mean, a good, not great A&M.
Yeah, but I mean,
Got taken to the fucking limit by Auburn.
it's true. I mean, Alabama is not talent-wise what it was the last couple of years for sure, but they still have Nick Saban.
Right.
And it's by far the worst matchup of the 3 other teams in the playoffs. I think they would have a better chance against Michigan or Georgia.
I actually think Cincinnati could beat Michigan I think that would be a close game. I don't know about Georgia. Actually, Georgia needs to play the person at quarterback that's actually good at playing that position.
JT.
Yeah.
I don't hate Stetson.
I don't hate him, but they have a better shot of winning with a guy that's fucking a little bit more aggressive than that, in my opinion. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. We're going to get out of here now. We got some other shit to do. Tune in tomorrow. RPR. Jesse's going to do, I think, one more show by herself and you guys.
Okay.
I think Ross will be back later in the week. If we're trying to get logistical shit done, too, so it's not all about health at this point. There's a bunch of shit that we had to get done.
A lot of bigger items than just a show or two.
Yeah. And then we'll have, after that, who do we have? We have Richard Stayskull tomorrow. If you guys will remember him as the special forces operator that we helped get the Ferries Doctrine overturned in the 2020 NDAA. He's bringing on a buddy to discuss some more stupid shit that's happening in the military right now. And then after that, I think that's it for tomorrow, right? What else?
No, Senor Liddell is in town, the Iceman.
Yeah, Chuck Liddell at 4 p.m. tomorrow, live. So he's going to be back in town, so that'll be a good show, yeah. Yep. And maybe we'll see what time those other guys come up here. He and Donut are friends. They're going to come up to dinner with us tomorrow, I think so. Maybe he'll come up tomorrow as well. We'll see.
Fuck yeah.
We'll see. Until then, you all